Alright, we're working on this 2013 Dodge Dart, and we're going to be replacing this coolant hose. It's the upper coolant hose, and this is a common failure on this car. And I'm going to show you where it's leaking at here first. Okay, so we're going to look right down in here by the computer, and you can see that is where that T is. And usually this plastic starts cracking, and this will fail, and it will said this is an engine destroyer on these darts. So hopefully you can catch this. If you see all that chalkiness, that's where it's been leaking. See, it's wet. It's also leaking down onto that lower hose there. But this is a very common failure. This is the upper hose. It gets really hot, and that plastic just doesn't hold up. Now I can figure out what this fitting is here. You know, you might be able to just replace that in a pinch, but you would definitely want to go ahead and replace this entire hose and as an assembly and not have to worry about it anymore. So this is what this looks like. Now you'll notice I've got just some hose clamps over here. You can use spring clamps. The original, we'll show you those, are going to be like a one-time use that are on there, but that's what this looks like. And this is a Gates. And I can leave a link to where you can find these. This will run you around $40 right now, but you know that's going to change. So right now you can get one for like 40 bucks. Not real cheap. Okay, so first thing before we can do anything, we got to get it up on ramps so we can drain the coolant down. We're going to get the rear tires chalked here. Now it goes without saying, you want to make sure this is absolutely cooled off before you begin any work on it. Okay, our valve we're going to open up is going to be over here on this side. We're going to have to go down underneath. Okay, so right here is our valve we're going to open up. Now you'll notice, if you can see right here, the spout is right over the top of this frame. Now if you just open that up, it's going to splatter over the top of this and just go everywhere, run down both sides. So we're going to have to take some hose. I got like some 1/4 inch hose here. We're going to slip that over it the best that I can. And then we'll open it up. Okay, you may not be able to open this with your finger, so you may have to take a little pair of pliers or something. This is pretty well stuck. Alright, so there we got it. Got it moving. And you don't want to twist it all the way out, just enough to get it draining out a little bit, or it'll come dumping out this whole valve here. Right, then we'll open this up to get it flowing out good. And while we're just letting this drain, we'll go up and work on some other things. Okay, this is a flat or 8mm. I'll just push that back a little bit. Right, we're on the other side. We need to get this air sensor. Okay, now this back here will simply lift up, or it should. slips on that back there. Snaps down into a couple of these little rubber grommets, so it may be kind of stuck a little bit. Now I have replaced the thermostat housing, and I have a video on that I'm going to share, and the reason I want to do that is because just in case you can't get in here to yours because you're going to have a clip to remove. If you need more room, I've got a video on that, on removing this and taking this out of the way, which makes it easier to access this. Now you should be able to get up here and pop that up and simply remove it, but if you cannot, then I have a video on removing some more of these other things. You can see that I've got just a screw style clamp up there, so it's going to be very easy to get in there and take that loose. And also this runs down to here. You can see that hose right there, and we got a clip here, and then we got a clip over here, and so these are kind of a one-time use. If you want to put this style back, you can, but you got to buy these and then buy the little tool to crimp it with, but we're not going to be using those. So we're just going to start with this one on the radiator here, and usually I just like to get a flat screwdriver, some needle nose, and we'll start popping this up. Whatever you can get in here with, the best. I may have to get a shorter one here. So really with this battery out of the way, it would be easier with a screwdriver. This is just a seal puller, and I'm going to work with this as far as popping it out. Basically you just have to pop this up here, so you need something to lift this up, get it moving. Be careful and don't put stress on the spout on the radiator there. Okay, so you can see that we got that unclipped there. Now there's going to be another part here. These are all going to be like this. Alright, well I broke that one, but that's fine. Alright, so I'm just pulling this tab back. But I mean, you get the idea. Just really doesn't matter how you take it off. Just don't damage the spout. Put pressure on your spout on the radiator there. So we got that off, and this is coming loose pretty easy. My pan is down there because it's going to want to drip still, so we'll just make sure it's positioned. And we'll let that drain down some more. Alright, so moving right along, and I'm going to use my little puller again. This is actually working out better than the screwdriver because it fits in here much better. So we're just kind of twisting this thing until we get it to break loose. Sometimes you can give yourself something to pry against, like I've got my needle nose. I'm making sure that I'm going under that wire, that I'm not going to hit that wire there. But just to have something to get a little bit of leverage on to help you pop it loose. Well, that's really tough. Okay, I think I finally got it to relent. And I could just slip it off once I get the hose completely off if I don't want to completely disassemble it here. But you get the idea. Alright, so there's that one. Okay, so if you think this hose is going to come off here easily, you would be mistaken. Okay, and now the hoses on the plastic come off usually pretty easily, most cases, but when they're attached to metal, they don't. And I pretty much use a heat gun all the time. If you don't have one of these, you know, not everybody's going to have one, but if you don't have one, you plan on doing a lot of work on your car, I would suggest getting a heat gun. It makes removing these stuck hoses so much easier. But I'd like to set it on like 3 or 4. In this case, I'm not going to hurt the metal, but if I was taking it loose on plastic, I would set it on about 3 and be a little bit more cautious, because this thing will melt plastic. So we're going to work on heating this fitting up, and then it'll just come right off. And I'm going to heat this up until it's so hot that I can't hardly touch it. I'm going to heat this rubber up for a little bit. It helps if you can heat all the way around it, but in most cases you can't get all the way around it. So you just have to heat one side. So you want to get it hot enough that this is going to come off here. You can pull them off like using that puller or screwdriver, but it's going to be much more difficult. The other problem is that sometimes you might scratch your spout, and this takes that out of the equation, so you don't have to worry about damaging anything. So I'm just going to heat this up a little bit, and we'll see how easily it'll come off. Okay, I've been heating it for a little bit. Now, the reason you got to heat these up, you keep in mind this engine runs around probably 190 up to 225 and sometimes up. So it gets really hot and these things glue themselves. So I got my pan directly underneath, because I'm sure there's going to be more coolant. Alright, now I've just got to get the one up by the thermostat. Now I'm just going to be using my 8mm here to loosen this off, because I've got this clamp. Now if you have, you'll most likely have the old clamp, so you'll have to pop that off there just like the other ones. Now I don't expect this one to be stuck, because I've actually had it off recently. It's possible that it might be, but I'm going to try to see if it's going to come loose here just by wiggling it. Okay, I'm glad this happened, because this allows me to show you what the problem is with these fittings. As I was pulling on this right here, this just snapped right off. So you see how brittle that these fittings get. Like I said, these things will run, I think they'll get up to 230 sometimes before the fan kicks on. So a lot of heat. And this has about 140,000 miles. But this is what happens, and this will fail, and you'll have a, catastrophic coolant leak. And it's, if you don't catch it in time, then it's, going to overheat the engine. So that just broke right off of there. And so far I haven't got this to break loose. Now this is also where having these other things off will help you out. So like I said, I'm going to leave a link to that video, so in case you want to remove these other things to make it easier. But I've got the band loose. I'm just working on this. And what I like to do to try to get it loose, if I can't really get in there good, is just wiggling it and just get it to move. And like I said, if this is your original, you're all but certainly going to have to use that heat gun or really get something and pull on it. So I haven't got this loose yet. And it hasn't been that long since I've had this off. Okay, I'm going to use this puller because I don't want to take any more things off here today, but I'm going to have to be cautious with this because so you can scratch up the spout here. I'm going to kind of lift, I'm going to hook it, but I'm going to kind of lift up, pull up and away from that spout. Alright. And like I said, most of your work is going to be getting these hoses pried off of the spouts because they really glue themselves on there. So this one had not been so long ago. I'm going to say that. It's probably been several months. But it was still glued. So I'm going to take what's left of this T-fitting out and take some measurements in case, because you can buy these T-fittings, so in case you need to just fix that in a pinch, I'll get those measurements because I'm not quite sure what it is. I've got another one somewhere, but I've misplaced it. Alright, so we're ready to get the new hose in. Before we do that, I'm going to show you this fitting real quick. So this is what happened to this one. I just tried to remove this. You see how this just disintegrated. If you have over 100,000 miles on your car, I would highly suggest replacing this at least by 100,000 miles. Now this, if you want to replace the T itself, this is the measurements for the big part. 1 3/16. It may be 1 1/4. I'll see if I can find one and leave a link. And then 7/8 on this part. Now this is the smallest part, not the barbed part that I measured from. That's what it's going to seal around. So 1 3/16 by 7/8. So these two big ones, 1 3/16. And like you say, you see how this disintegrated. So you definitely want to get ahead of this problem. And I've got my clamps at the ready. We'll go ahead and slip those on. And we'll tighten them all up at the same time once we get everything in place. Actually grabbed the wrong band. You really, if you can, you don't want to use these. See the difference? You really want this 1/2 inch band. So I'm going to slip this one on here instead. Just make sure you got that pushed up all the way there. All right, we'll go ahead and snug them up. If you're using these screw style, make sure you got them good and snug. Don't break them, but make sure it's good and snug. Alright, so that's good and snug. Right, so there we have it. Now we just need to get down there and close that valve. Start getting some coolant back in here. This one underneath doesn't run as hot. It does have chalkiness on it, but I'm not for sure if it was just running down from this one. So this is one I'm going to keep an eye on. Maybe replacing it next. Right, don't get too rough with it. You just want to make sure it's closed. Alright, we just got a clean jug of some sort there. And we're going to pour this back up. Paint filter. And you know, when you're having to fix several things like I have on this car, it may not seem like much, but you know, if you're not reusing good coolant, it's 20, 30 bucks every jug that you get. So if we're saving a jug of coolant, you know, we're saving money. So we'll run this back through. So this is this coolant is not that old, and we'll run it through here, get all the debris out. And usually I don't have to add more than a few cups, if any. Alright, so we managed to get a whole gallon there. Now, most of the time the air is just going to work itself out. You know, you're just going to drive the car. Once it cools, open the cap, let any air escape, you know, refill it as needed. This I mainly just use just to fill it, just to keep from making a mess. And it's, you can get this little kit, funnel kit, with these adapters that fit in there, and it just makes it easier. So we'll just pour up everything that we took out, and we'll run it, drive it, and refill it as needed. Like I said, you don't want to open that cap till it's completely cooled off. But if you get at least, we'll get at least what we took out back in here, then we'll just put the cap back on it and drive it. Alright, I only managed to get half a jug, so that's not going to cut it. I'm going to have to run it here and fill it. We'll go ahead and get the cover put back on here. Alright, we'll get it cranked up here and check it for leaks. It'll start taking some more coolant now that we got it cranked up. But this one down under here is a little bit harder to see. But you get down there and look at that. And after you know, do this job, you want to keep an eye on this for a while, because you know, anytime you disturb something, things may leak. Alright, so that's sucked on down there. We'll get a little more coolant put in. Right, I got all but that little bit here. Now I got 75% of that jug in there. Instead of sitting here trying to get it to take it while it's sitting here idling, we're just going to take it and drive it. So put the cap back on. We've got enough coolant in there that we're not going to be in any danger. And I'm going to take it and drive it and work the rest of that air out. Okay, I took it for a short 5-minute drive. I didn't take it very far. And you can see here where we got the coolant at now, so I'll be able to add it. Now I'm not going to take that off there until it cools off, but I'll be able to go ahead and get the remainder of that jug in there. Alright, you may not be able to get it all at once here, but I did fill what I could. I've got it full again, and it's just going to have to be done in little amounts because it's still got air pockets in here, so we'll drive it again and then get the rest of it. May even have to add a little more, but it's in no danger of overheating because we've got, you know, 90% of this coolant back in here. Okay, so I want to leave a link to that hose assembly and that T in case you just want to replace the T and try to get by with that. I would probably recommend replacing the entire hose assembly though. But like I said, if you like the content on the channel, please invite you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. And as always, I thank you for watching.